Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to Wake Up Wednesdays. So, wake up. These Wake Up Wednesdays are an opportunity for us to reinvigorate one another, for us to pick our heads up as the week sometimes can get away from us because we are super busy with meetings and calls and pings and queries, and to reinvigorate one another to come back to our GSD list, our Get Stuff Done list, which should be an outcome driven list, and making sure that we're making progress towards our outcomes and we're not letting the week get away from us as it naturally does. So this is an opportunity for us to check in with one another, to reinvigorate one another and wake up. Just a special message this week. Memorial Day passed, and I just want to say thank you to all those for your service. Thank you to all those around the world for fighting for what you believe in, and thank you to all those for your sacrifices. We had a beautiful weekend. It's an amazing day out today. It's about 70 degrees here in New York, and the hotter the better. I absolutely love this weather. I want to talk to you guys today about an article that I posted in the group chat entitled AI and Cloud. How can this dynamic duo help with resource management? So let me ask you guys, what's your experience with AI? What's your experience with cloud? Tell me if this scenario sounds familiar to you. You're managing a team, and there are some folks on that team that are technical, some maybe not so technical. And some of the managers are in charge of managing the team. They're in charge of writing code. They're in charge of playing the role as the scrum master. They're in charge of playing the role as production management. They're in charge of playing the role as the product manager. And in addition to managing their team, they have all sorts of regular business as usual responsibilities. The introduction of AI and cloud can help them out. So this is where we're automating things. This is where we're using intelligence to forecast things. This is where we're getting all of our infrastructure and all of our software inside of one single place so that it alleviates the burdens from our managers and that they can go back to focusing on actually working with the teams and managing the teams or writing code or designing or doing whatever it is that they do best, and they're not worried about things like how much compute power are we using? Are we going to run out of memory? Are we going to run out of storage? What's our redundancy plan? What's our sustained resiliency plan? Where are our servers physically located? Are they going to overheat? Do we have the right type of cooling? Do we have the right type of facility? How much does it cost to maintain this facility? With the combination of AI and cloud, and we're going to talk about the three major providers in a second, you don't have to worry about any of that. You offshore the worrying, so to speak. Now, let me ask you something in your personal lives. How many of you, by a show of hands, have a cell phone or a mobile phone? Now, keep your hands up if you have a computer or a laptop in your house. Now, let me ask you guys, how many of you built the infrastructure for your home internet? No one, right? So let me ask you, why don't you build your own cell phone, build your own cell phone towers, build your own computers, build your own laptops, build your own internet connection in your homes? Whether you have one, two people in your house, a small family, maybe three, four, five people, if you're living with extended family or friends, how come you don't do all that stuff yourself? Well, if you're an engineer, or even, I should say, even if you're an engineer, one of the reasons why you might not do that yourself is because it's much more cost effective for a couple bucks a month to pay your internet service provider to provide you with internet, to pay your cell phone provider to provide you with cell phone or mobile service, to pay your provider a couple bucks a month to have a cell phone. So you can have a couple $1,000 cell phone or mobile device or laptop or desktop in your house for just a couple bucks a month with insurance and warranties that automatically update it. When we think about big business, whether we're talking about a small company of 5 to 50 people or a large organization of 50 to 5,000 to 500,000 people, the concept is still the same. Now, if you have about 50 people in your organization, in your business, you're probably going to spend a couple $100 a month on this infrastructure as a service or this software as a service, basically AI and cloud working together for you. If you have a couple 100,000 people in your business or your organization, depending on your size, well, maybe you're going to spend about a couple $100,000. But by working with companies such as Amazon Web-based Services, these are going to be the three. Google and Microsoft, sometimes referred to as Azure, Microsoft Azure, as that's their cloud, or the Microsoft Office 365 cloud, it's sometimes called. So you have Amazon, you have Google, and you have Microsoft. Are there other players in the space that may be more or less appropriate for your business? Of course, there are plenty of players in the space, Oracle, IBM, etc. But we're just talking about the three major ones today that I think will add the most value for you. So let's talk about the first concept that I listed in the article in the group chat, which is auto scaling and resource management. So in the old days, your engineers would have to worry, well, do we have enough servers in place? We would have to do analysis to say, what's the load on the servers? What's the compute power? We'd have to have an alert production management system in place where we would say, well, the CPU throttled to 75% or the compute power throttled to 75% and it stayed there for over an hour. So now we need to look into our process. We need to look into our compute power. We'd have to have a network engineer or an infrastructure support person constantly looking at our memory, our storage, and say, do we have enough storage? Do we need more storage? How much storage are we using? We have to do things like tape backups and zips and compressions and put all kinds of restraints on people. So with this concept of artificial intelligence and cloud and auto scaling, what it'll do is once you have your system uploaded to the cloud utilizing AI, it'll actually look based on a trend and it'll tell you. It'll give you all of these services. So whether you're talking AWS, you're talking Google, or you're talking Microsoft Azure, all of them have this concept of a dashboard or a console that is intelligent, that'll actually tell you, well, based on your 3-month history, you actually needed a little more compute power, and we automatically scaled your compute power up for you. Based on your usage, you actually needed a little more storage, so we automatically scaled your storage up. In other words, you don't need to get on the phone with a vendor and say, hey, I used a little more data this month. Can you give me more data? Now, I'm making that analogy because you don't get on the phone with your cell phone company and say, hey, I'm going to use more data this month. Can you give me more data? No, they automatically scale you up or down. Now, that's how it used to work. For the most part, nowadays, most people's cell phone service have an unlimited plan where they charge you just a flat rate fee. And the reason why I'm mentioning that is this is where I see large scale organizations that are using AI and cloud computing going to. I see them going to almost an unlimited model opposed to an auto scaling model where you can say, well, actually, this is the amount of compute power you use. These are your peak hours, your prime hours versus your off peak hours. These are the processes that are running that are taking a little more compute. These are the directories and files or components or applications that are using a little more storage. And then instead of having to put that burden on many engineers, you can look at this holistically across an entire organization. So the benefits, obviously, it saves you time, it saves you money, it saves you headache. It's not an aggravation. It's better for performance. It's better for resource management. Like I said, it can scale up and scale down during peak and off-peak times. If you're not using, let's say, for example, 75% compute 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, maybe you're only using that 75% compute power from the hours of 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., let's say, and I know that that's an extreme example. Those other hours, maybe you're charged a little less because it can actually tell you, and it automatically scales. So AWS has something called EC2. You can check that out where it'll automatically scale for you. Microsoft Azure also has automatic scaling, dynamic scales, predefined metrics to give you custom health goals, and what's called GCP, Google Cloud Platform, has cloud monitoring, and the functions can be combined for auto failing. Excuse me, not auto failing, auto scaling. In my personal opinion, I am a AWS guy and I'm a Azure guy. I tend not to use the Google Cloud platform a lot just because I don't need to. I do have a bias. I prefer Microsoft Office suite of tools in terms of Teams, SharePoint, the new features that Microsoft Loop utilizes, which are quite excellent for team collaboration and sharing. I'm still a fan of things like Excel, PowerPoint, Word. And for obviously for my email for Outlook, I use Office 365, and I would recommend that for most people. So this is where your Microsoft Azure can come into place, opposed to Amazon web-based services or AWS EC2 instances for custom applications, whether you're finance, healthcare, big data, or everything in between. Putting that into infrastructure is very, very easy. So the biggest, I think the biggest hurdles that most people feel, and rightfully so, they're worried about safety, they're worried about security, they're worried about ease of use. So the data breaches that happen inside cloud environments are very few and far between. They're rare. But like most things in the news, the reason why we hear about them is because the news makes them big. Now, I would argue that 90% of those breaches, so there's very few breaches to begin with. The second thing is 90% of those breaches happen based on the architect's configuration or lack thereof. So you purchase this service through a vendor and you configure it. So maybe you want to configure things to be a little more open or a little less open based on your company or your business's personal preference. Those configurations can either help you or hurt you. So having the right network engineer, having the right cloud engineer in place, even if that's a consultant you temporarily bring on from the vendor to help you configure these things until it's automated, is important to work within your business. I'm also a fan of hybrid cloud solutions where we have very, very private information inside of what's kind of called a private cloud versus public information, which is a little more public in a public cloud. You can have both of these things in a hybrid environment inside an AWS, inside a GCP, inside an Azure. So you can do those, and you can work with these together as well. But in terms of Amazon, Amazon has something called Amazon Guard Duty, which leverages analysis, machine learning to not only potentially identify threats, patterns, and behaviors, but it'll provide all of this for you in a dashboard. So just like with your personal computers at home or your laptops, these things automatically update themselves. You're not really necessarily worried about things like malware or attacks. Now, to be fair, your personal devices are not going to be attacked the same way. If you're a big healthcare data provider and you're trying to collaborate with hundreds of thousands of patients' records and pull those patients' records together so you can have a correlation based on recommendations for healthcare. Obviously, there's going to be breaches and they might be more subject to attacks than your personal computer. But the reason why I'm mentioning it is, your personal computer and your personal devices, just like your home, all of these things automatically update based on the schedule. So it'll, back in the old days, we used to have to load floppy disks. We used to have to load CDs, and we would have to buy the latest updates. Now, as part of a subscription service, as what they call, these fancy names, SaaS, software as a service or infrastructure as a service. Like I said, if your organization is small or your business is small, it's just a couple bucks a month. If it's larger, maybe it's a couple thousand, but it definitely pays off in the end. These things will automatically not only update themselves, but provide you with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and analysis to tell you if there's any potential threats. Now, like I said, I tend to favor AWS and Microsoft Azure, but Google GCP also has a security command center, SCC, integrated, where they provide analytics and security. So overall, just like your home devices and your home internet and your mobile devices, you don't necessarily worry about things like compute power. You don't worry about storage. You don't worry about these things, and it's almost like a monthly subscription. Obviously, if you have a family plan, you're going to pay a little more. Just like if your business is a little bigger, you're going to pay a little more. But this concept of AI with auto scaling and automatic threat detection and prevention, I really do see as the future. I see this as sort of what I call offshoring the worry. So allowing these companies to let the artificial intelligence run and have everything in a cohesive, collaborative environment. If you're big into data analysis, you know that having all of your data in the same place is half the battle. Having your data secure is half the battle. If you're big into rolling out things like agile or being more agile when rolling out your products, having everyone work inside of the same infrastructure, inside of the same ecosystem is very important. So I hope you guys took this opportunity to think about AI and cloud and how it can help with resource management. And I hope that you will use AI, and I hope that you will migrate your businesses and use things like Amazon Web-based Services, Microsoft Azure, and the Google Cloud Platform. So once again, these Wake Up Wednesdays are an opportunity for us to lift our heads up, to make sure the week doesn't get away from us, for us to reinvigorate one another, for us to go back to our Get Stuff Done list and track towards our outcome. So wake up. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. I hope you have a beautiful week and you're enjoying this beautiful weather. Thank you so much for this opportunity to think and talk about AI and cloud environments for auto scaling and automatic threat detection. And let's talk again soon. Thank you and have a great day. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.